Hello, world. Welcome to the 276th Climate Change Emergency broadcast here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. It is March 8th, 2024. Next week will be number 277. That'll be on March 15th, 2024, the Ides of March. So this is number 276, is March 8th, 2024 in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, Climate Change Emergency broadcast. I'm out here at Walmart in Gettysburg, which is an example of a mega store that many of you around the world probably don't have access to, thank God. Actually, it's good and bad. It concentrates all the products into one area, so it reduces greenhouse gases that way. But on the other hand, it's producing massive amount of imports and everything else from around the world, and which is a climate change nightmare. So take it or leave it, good or bad. As you can see, it's a giant parking lot. So they ripped down massive amount of woods. And this is the best thing they got going out here as far as ecology goes, because here they created a runoff area, which is good and bad. They created a runoff area because there's a parking lot, but at least they created a runoff area, and they did it by law. They don't, I'm sure they didn't do it out of the goodness of their own heart, but here it is, and that's the best we can hope for out in this section of this township here, Strabane Township in Gettysburg. It's pretty pitiful. It's like the Wild Wild West. We got mega stores and shopping out in this side of town, and it's not a good thing. Let's see, carbon dioxide right now is 425.36 parts per million. Only 280 parts per million is safe. I talked about that for years. That's what we need to return to have no effects with climate change. Otherwise, we're in big trouble. And obviously, we're in big trouble since we're at 425 and not at 280. February 2024 was 1.77 degrees Celsius above the 1880 baseline. And you want to be at 0 degrees above the 1750 baseline. So in reality, we're at 2 degrees Celsius above the 1750 baseline, which means we're spiraling out of control as a society and a planet. And it's not safe for human habitation, let alone all life on Earth, the way we're headed. 2023 was the hottest year on record that they know of. In fact, they think it might be the hottest year all the way back for 125,000 years. We've just experienced the hottest January on record. We just experienced the hottest February on record. 6,000 leases were done by Joe Biden in the first 2 years for oil drilling on federal land. He promised he wouldn't do any. 3 auctions in the Gulf of Mexico for oil and gas, and totaling 80 million acres. He promised he wouldn't do any. The Willow Project has been approved by Joe Biden. It's in Alaska, which is a huge environmental catastrophe that's going to happen. These are the actions of a maniac. These are psychopathic actions of leaders around the world, especially here in the United States. Joe Biden didn't do this by himself. I mean, he did it with Congress and everything, but he's the one that could put the stop to it, and he's not choosing not to. Subsidies to the oil industry right now are $7 trillion a year, which is $19 billion a day, which is $792 million an hour, which is $13 million a minute, which is $217,000 per second given to the fossil fuel industry for subsidies. So they make massive profits. And in addition to that, they get subsidies from you and I, the taxpayers, because this isn't just free money. And also in the U.S. tax code, when they drill, they also often zero out. So they have to pay no taxes concerning this, essentially. Further drilling, oil exploration, they get paid to do it. And then they get they have to pay no taxes. Meanwhile, we in the middle class who are being forced into lower class now are paying out our wazoo as far as taxes go. But keep voting the same, get the same, Republican, Democrat. What the hell? They're on their side, right? The oceans right now were the hottest ever since records been keeping April to December 2023. August was the hottest for the world's oceans altogether at 69.98 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 21.1 degrees Celsius. Check it out. Fun times. Greenland ice sheet is losing 30 million tons of ice per hour. 30 million tons of ice per hour being lost in the Greenland ice sheet, converted from ice to water, and this is called a tipping point where things are tipping over. And what is 30 million tons, Jim? Well, it is equal to the Empire State Building is 365,000 tons in weight. So that would be 219 Empire State Buildings in weight loss per hour. 219 Empire State Buildings lost per hour. That is 5,286 Empire State Buildings lost per day, which is 158,500 Empire State Buildings in weight lost per month. So this is a huge amount of weight, okay? So you're losing 219 Empire State Buildings in weight being shifted from Greenland to the oceans. You don't think this will cause earthquakes or plate tectonic shifts over time, let alone the sea level rise? You're sadly mistaken if you think this is going to affect us. Is not going to affect us, rather. Right now, the heat going into the oceans is equal to 11 to 16 Hiroshima bombs per second in heat. So it's 11 or 16, depends who you talk to or what site you cite. So it's 11 to 16 Hiroshima bombs in heat per second going into the oceans. You can't even make your tongue go that fast. The AMOC, which is the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, is in jeopardy of shutting down, and it is slowing down. That'll happen is it'll result in uneven heat distribution throughout the world. And with the stratification of heat in the oceans, like you get different layers now because the oceans are no longer circulating the way they did. You're going to have a heat layer on top of the ocean that will just stay in one place. If the circulation stops, the heat stays in one place. Whoever's around that heat source will definitely have severe consequences with that, with hurricanes, storms, plant loss, extreme heat on the continents, things like that. And the United States is in jeopardy of that happening to them. The Arctic is warming 8 times the rate of the rest of the world. The Arctic would normally snow, but now it is raining in places, especially on top of Greenland, where it is 1.6 kilometers high in ice. And instead of snow piling up there, which the snow would just stay there, now you're getting rain. So you're getting not only a heating of the environment, you're also getting a melting at a quicker rate due to the rain on top of the ice sheets, and especially in the Arctic itself. And you're having rain happen. It goes down into moulins, little streams, and then disappears into these lakes, and then the lakes eventually drain straight down and go sideways then within the ice sheet. So it's no longer just a straight down drain. It can go sideways and melt even more on its way down, tracking towards the ocean. Hurricane season starts in July here in the United States area, and El Nino is definitely disappearing, slowing down and disappearing, and I think by April it'll be mostly gone. And that'll profoundly affect everything, because once hurricane starts in July, you're going to see if the if the Caribbean heats up at the rate it probably will, you're going to see massive hurricanes. Now, whether the ocean stays hot off of Africa right now is another story. Right now, it's extremely warm in the Atlantic, which is a breeding ground for the hurricanes, but or at least the low pressure systems. But it might not stay. Who knows? Who can predict anything right now? It's crazy. So in Gaza, you got this Israeli slaughter fest. It's not a war. It's a slaughter fest of civilians in Gaza. Nobody cares in the United States because no one wants to care about it in the United States. Nobody knows about it in the United States. So you have some protests going on around the country, but mostly not. People go back to their little shopping and religion and football games and whatever else, or baseball games. So right now, the Israeli conflict is causing climate change catastrophe. It's 281,000 tons of carbon dioxide put into the atmosphere in the first 2 months due to jets and tanks and all sorts of transports. You have 38,000 dead if you count the people that are buried alive. And that's what's happening. Not only children getting blown to pieces and maimed and psychologically injured, kids, children, wives, husbands, everyone psychologically maimed, but you have 38,000 plus dead, 71,000 plus injured, and some of those injuries will end up dying as well. You have starvation going on. Kids are dying of malnutrition now, as are adults, but kids are especially vulnerable. 2 million have been displaced out of 2.5 million people in Gaza. This is a catastrophe all around, and it's a genocide. And if you're staying in these two parties, you're a part of this. You're complicit with what's going on. So you have orphan children, you have widows, you have widowers, you have children being blown to pieces, you have children not blown to pieces that are living through it that eventually die after extreme pain. They've cut off the medicine to Gaza, so a lot of the operations on children and women and husbands and stuff are being done without anesthetic. Cut your arm off without anesthetic. See how that feels. There's a food pyramid being proposed by Joe Biden at the State of the Union address. This is what I was talking about, a corridor. You need 3 corridors going into Gaza, military corridors, but you need boots on the ground to do this properly. This is poppycock, what he's doing. What he's doing is he's doing a food pier. All the Democrats will go, see, he's doing something to stop this slaughter. No, this is a feeble attempt at trying to provide food from a pier, one pier, and the Israelis will search every little bit of it and stop and stymie every little bit of it along the way, because we got no balls to stop Israel from doing their genocide. So what will happen is they'll stymie it. The food pier won't work out, and Joe Biden says it'll take a few weeks to get it going. What the fuck? What the hell? Sorry. So what kind of psychopath does this stuff? I mean, they're doing a food pier that's not going to work, and then they're still supplying Israel with the bombs to blow the crap out of civilians in Gaza. So this is psychopathic behavior. It's an accessory and partner to murder if you're staying in these two parties, Democrats and Republicans. Biden's not doing this by himself. This is with the Republicans and Democrats, full on the Congress. So right now you have food, medicine, and water, which is being choked off into Gaza. I mean, they allow 30 trucks per day, and usually they were getting 450 trucks per day, and that still wasn't good enough to supply the people with ample, safe food and water and medicine. So what's the proposal for this? You know, I'm pointing out what's wrong. Okay, here you go. I'm going to go hardcore, and you won't agree with it. Tell the Israelis to stop it. Make the Israelis stop it. Say, cut off all aid to Israel. No more aid for bombs or in general. We give them $3.5 billion a year. They're providing another war package so they can slaughter more people for $14.5 billion. So normally we get $3.5 billion. We're going to give an additional $14 billion so they can kill more people. This is racism. This is colonialism. This is genocide. This is murder. This is slaughter. And you're staying with these two parties. Again, you're part of the whole problem. You stay in the parties. You can get out of this party right now. Go to your computer. Get out of your two parties. Register as independent. Register as Green Party. Register as I don't care what. But register as something other than Democrat or Republican. So you could be a force for peace. They're not choosing to. They're a force for war and slaughter. This is what's going on right now. There could be a two-state solution. Right now, they're not choosing it. What you do with that is you force Egypt through coercion, because that's why they're not involved with the war to begin with. They should be wholesale fighting the Israelis at this point, but they're not. So you force Jordan and Israel to open up a little bit of land on the Gaza Strip, on the other side of the Gaza Strip, as well as on the West Bank. And you double the size of the Gaza Strip. You keep the Gaza Strip intact. You force Israel to get the hell out of Gaza, but you also double the size of the Gaza Strip. So instead of 2.5 million into 26 miles, you could have 2.5 million into 52 miles, which is sort of doable. You force settlers out of the West Bank altogether. No Israeli settlers allowed in the West Bank. Let's see here. No settlements in Gaza. The Israelis, I guarantee you, will start settling into northern Gaza and putting Israelis into northern Gaza, and that's highly illegal and highly disgusting. Again, have they done anything last 4 months that have not been disgusting? This issue, Joe Biden said, started on October 7th. Totally a lie in his State of the Union address. What a lie that is. Did not start on October 7th. It started all the way back in 1948 when Israel became independent, or people started moving into Israel, forcing out the Palestinians, and started slaughtering them right away. That was 75 years ago. That's how far back this issue goes. So the blood on your hands, you're a participant by staying in these two parties, Democrat or Republican, backing up Joe Biden, backing up Donald Trump, voting for either of them for president. You're participating in this slaughter. You really don't care about people. You are a racist. You know, the Democrats are always accusing Republicans of being racist. This is an example of where you are a racist. You are so bad at this right now. Your blood is on your hands. You're participating in a murder and genocide. What's happening? You're a partner in this. You're a wholesale partner by staying in these two parties. You're slaughtering the people of Gaza. You're slaughtering people in the land of Jesus, okay? I'm sure Jesus would be real proud of you. So go to your religious places on Sunday and Saturday and think about yourself and contemplate about your actions by staying in these two parties. This isn't that hard. This is not cutting off your arm. This is getting out of the two parties and showing them you're not happy with the situation. Then call your congressman, then call your Democrat Party, then call your Republican Party and say, this is why I'm getting out of it. But if you're going to church or a synagogue or a mosque or whatever and participating with these two parties, you are participating in the murder and slaughter and the wholesale genocide, as well as discrimination and racism against a whole race of people, as well as climate change. Because this war, this so-called war, which is not, this slaughter, is destroying the environment. So go to the Green Party platform, read about it. Okay, it's on the internet. Green Party platform, United States. Also type in Jill Stein on YouTube for the Green Party and see what she's about. I guarantee you she does not, you do not disagree with what she's saying. If you do, you really aren't a human being, you know. And if you're worried about whether Trump wins or Biden wins, again, you're participating in a murder and a slaughter, suicide and a genocide, and involved in extreme racism. I'll catch you next week. This is Hard Love. Get your head out of your you know what, and I'll see you on March 15th, if not earlier, for number 277.